Okay. Good afternoon to one and all. Audible? Yes. See, in the previous lecture, we have discussed regarding the course that is sensors and application. So, in the previous two lecture, we have discussed regarding program outcome, course outcome, as well as program specific outcome. Then our CO, that means course outcome, particular that course outcome. Also, we have discussed the central idea about the subject and the importance of this subject, and after that we have discussed detailed syllabus of that subject, and then we have discussed the textbook and reference book which are used for this course, right? In the previous two lecture, we have just done the introduction of this course. Now today we will start our first one unit in the section first, that is sensor fundamentals and characteristics. So basically, what is the importance of this subject, I have already tell, and in this first unit we want to understand the sensor fundamental. That means there are different definition of the sensor, then the fundamental units of measurement and the characteristics of sensor. There are again different types of characteristics of sensor. See, sensor fundamental and characteristics. Now, the syllabus of this unit, it is nothing but content of this unit. First is that first one content is nothing but sensor. What is meant by sensor? We will understand by using one example or different example. We will tell and we will understand the concept related to sensor. Then signals and system. Then types of sensor or the sensor classification. Again, units of measurement. And the last one point is that sensor characteristics. So the unit first, it will contain only these 5 points or 5 bit. What is the sensor? There are some types of signal and system. I think you people studied in signal system. I think you are now studying, no? Signal system. So there are different types of signal, like analog signal, digital signal. So signals and systems, sensor classification. So classification of sensor or the types of sensor, and units of measurement. This is one bit. And the last one point is that sensor characteristics. In that unit, so these are the important point. Sensor, first of all, understand the sensor, and there are different characteristics of sensor. So these characteristics you should understand, because depending upon that characteristics, you are able to choose a sensor for a particular application. Okay, do you know that in case of suppose DC machine or DC generator motor, behavior of that machine, or if you want to select any machine for a particular application, you should understand the characteristics, right? No, like torque versus armature current characteristics. So that the characteristics part, it is very much important in case of this first one, right? So first of all, understand the definition, and then different types of characteristics depending upon sensor classification. Okay, now we will see first one point is that what is meant by sensor. There are different types of definition, so we will discuss that point. See, as I have told that the sensor, it is nothing but it is a one device. So it can be a device, it will convert one form of energy into another form. Like that, a sensor, it is often defined as a device that receives and responds to a signal or a stimulus, right? Sensor, it is one type of device, a device ahe. So this device, it will receive one signal. Do you know that sensor, it will receive one signal? That means it will receive one physical parameter, or like as it will receive one type of signal. It may be analog signal. So signal Sensor, it is nothing but it is a device that receives that signal and give response to that signal. It is one type of definition, is nothing but sensor. It is the device that receives a signal and a response to that signal. So instead of calling a signal, in this course we are calling it as a stimulus, right? That means we rearrange the definition. Sensor, it is a device, it can receive a stimulus or it will receive and response to a stimulus, right? So that means sensor, it is a device, it can receive and response to a stimulus. Stimulus काय करेल, ते receive करेल आणि त्याला response करेल. Suppose stimulus, it is nothing but, we will tell that definition of stimulus. So suppose we are considering one parameter like a temperature. It is nothing but one physical parameter. So sensor, it is device, it will sense that parameter or receive that parameter and respond to that. चला काय करेल ते response. So it is nothing but one type of sensor, or it is nothing but sensor, it is one device. Now there are some types of sensor, like mainly there are two types of sensor. First one is nothing but natural and second one is nothing but man-made. So that means a natural object and man-made. See, the natural sensor, it is nothing but it is present in the living organism. It is called as natural sensor, right? Natural sensor, that means it is a sensor or it is a one type of object or device. It is present in a living organism. Can anyone give me example? Nerve system, right? Correct. So nerve system, which is present in the living organism, and it will receive that signal or it will receive the physical parameter and respond to that physical parameter. That means again our skin, it is one type of sensor, right? So that means the part or the object which are present on the living organism and it will sense that stimulus. So this type of sensor, it is called as natural sensor. See here. So how this sensor it will be work? That means living organism sensor. Usually these types of sensor, it will works on the electrochemical characteristics, right? Electrochemical characteristics or electrochemical character usually respond with signal having an electrochemical characteristics. You know that our body, it should be that means it should be what we can call made up of like chemical property, muscles, like that. So that means it will be having a signal, it will be sense that physical property and it will be respond to that physical property. Response to that physical property, that means it is depends upon electrochemical characteristics. And then the man-made device, next one type, it is nothing but man-made device. So man-made type of device or man-made sensor, it is nothing but it is the receives the information and it is transmitted and processed in the form of electrical. So this sensor, it is nothing but man-made type of sensor. So for performing any function, if we are manufacturing any one of the sensor, that sensor, it will be receive some information like temperature, like humidity, it will receive some information. So whether this directly it can be converted into electrical form? No, somewhat there should be a processing, it is required, right? No, suppose low level signal is there, so we want to make that signal to high level, so that there is amplifier is required. Okay, so once analog signal or the sensor having in some range to detect, within that range it will detect. Okay, beyond that range it will not detect, like that. So that means it will receives an information transmitted from that physical parameter or that object, and some process it can be done on that that information, and then it will convert it into electrical power, right? Now, so this is these types of object or these types of sensor, it is nothing but man-made sensor. Getting all of you? Main two types, natural and man-made. Getting no? Give me reply. Hello. Okay. Now, align with above definition. Again, we will define the sensor. The sensor, it is a device that receives a stimulus and respond with an electrical signal. So we are now considering, we are accepting that natural, or we are leaving that natural sensor which are present on the living organism. We are considering a man-made object. It is nothing but sensor, and this is used for our automation purpose or the controlling purpose. A sensor, it is a device that receives a stimulus. So that receives a stimulus or that receives a signal and respond with an electrical signal. That means it will respond with that stimulus in the electrical form. Electrical form मध्ये काय करेल त्याचं output असेल. So again, depending upon that, again the sensor, it can be defined as sensor. It is nothing but device. It can be converts a signal into an electrical. That means a non-electrical signal into an electrical signal, right? No, or non-electrical energy into an electrical energy, right? No, so depending upon definition, the sensor, it is a device that receives a stimulus and responds with an electrical signal. Now, what is meant by stimulus? We are using the word stimulus. Stimulus. What is meant by stimulus? See, the stimulus is the quantity. Stimulus, it is nothing but it is the property, or the stimulus, it is nothing but condition of that object. It can be sensed and it is converted into an electrical signal. So this is nothing but we are considering stimulus. For example, if we are considering a stimulus, it is nothing but quantity. That means your sensor, it should be sense the quantity. Okay, suppose in your automation field, your sensor or your controlling equipment, if it is aligned with that sensor, suppose weight of, that means sugar bag. Okay, suppose a 50 kg weight is there, then sugar come out from that pipe, it will be stopped like that, wall it will be closed. So that means it depends upon quantity. Which quantity? The sugar having an 50 kg. Once this bag, it will be fulfilled about 50 kg, then it will be close the all. Like that, it is nothing but quantity. So similarly, we have taken in the example in the first lecture, that is controlling of water in the tank. Controlling of water in the tank, in the sense we are controlling the water in the tank by using a valve. But if we take it is controlled by hand, that means there is a one man is required. So its eyes and the tank, what we can call tank measurement scale, it will be act as a sensor, right? Now that means the man, it will seize the level of that tank, how much level water it will be fulfilled. Then if the water it will be fulfilled by that tank, then it will stop the water. Or controlling of water, it can be done depending upon seeing to that water flow which is in the tank. So like that, it is nothing but it is depends upon quantity, right? Now, so stimulus in the sense it is defined as it is one type of quantity. Again, it is nothing but it is the property. Okay, so property in the sense, suppose any one of the material is there, like iron material is there. Okay, and we want to heat that iron material above 100 degrees Celsius, right? Now, so suppose beyond that it will melt. Suppose we are considering beyond that it will melt. So sensor it will be set somewhat value, काहीतरी value ला तो set केला असेल. Once it can be set, above that, if the temperature it will be goes, it will be stop giving the heat like that. So it is nothing but it is property of material or the condition of any material or that object, the object condition. Now for example, the condition of object, it is nothing but suppose a counting machine is there. Condition of object is nothing but we people are object. If we are moving from one position to two position, other position, at that situation my condition it will be changed. That means I done the movement. It is nothing but like a condition. So here we are using the word stimulus. It is nothing but it is one type of quantity, one type of property, or it is nothing but it is the condition that can be sensed and it is converted into an electrical form. So it is nothing but a stimulus, right? And sensor, it will respond and receive that stimulus and respond, it is in the electrical form. So it is definition regarding that sensor definition, and we have used here the word stimulus. Getting concept of stimulus. Stimulus, it is nothing but it is, again, suppose I am telling one object. Okay, object in the form of quantity, object in the form of property, or object in the form of condition. So this can be sensed and it can be converted into an electrical signal. So this is called as stimulus, and depending upon stimulus, the sensor, it is a device that receives a stimulus and respond to that stimulus in the form of electrical energy, right? Now, so this is somewhat definition of stimulus and sensor. Getting all of you understood the concept of stimulus, because we are using this stimulus word in this course or in this subject. We are using the word stimulus as a sensor input. Sensor input in the sense of, suppose there is a if we can say that it is a humidity measurement sensor. So for humidity measurement sensor, soil moisture content, it is nothing but one type of stimulus, right? No, if we are considering a temperature sensor, so temperature wave, or it may be property of that what we can call property of that material. Suppose if we want to measure the temperature of iron, if we want to measure the temperature of that means aluminium, so there are again different temperature. Its melting point, it is different. That means it will its temperature, it should be also different. See, that means the stimulus, it is nothing but it is the quantity, property, or the condition that can be sensed and the converted into an electrical signal. So basically the output obtained, it is in the form of which form? Output obtained electrical, right? Now output obtained electrical. Now see okay, now see, the purpose of the sensor is to respond to some kind of input physical property. It is nothing but stimulus. The which property, which condition, or the which quantity in the at the input side, that can be sensed. Okay, so it is nothing but stimulus, it can be sensed, and the response is given depending upon that stimulus. So stimulus may be a wave, stimulus may be a physical parameter, stimulus may be a condition, stimulus may be a quantity, like that. Okay, so it is nothing but it is the physical parameter, it can be sensed, and some response is given to that stimulus, and this response, it is in the form of electrical. Okay, see, again, the purpose of sensor is to respond some kind of physical property, or some kind of input physical property. It is nothing but a stimulus, so that I am writing here in the bracket, that is stimulus, and to convert it into an electrical signal. It is converted into an electrical signal. So for controlling, again there are some peripheral devices required, like that there is some, it can be interfaced with that of microcontroller, it can be interfaced to that of other devices, peripheral devices. Okay, so for that, the signal which is incompatible with that of electronic circuit, जो obtain होणारा सिग्नल आहे, जी आपण इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सर्किटरी इंटरफेस करणार आहे त्याच्याशी कॉम्पॅक्टेबल असेल. If the signal it is not readable to that of your that means electronic circuitry, then whether the system it will be control that situation? No. That means the output obtained from that sensor, it should be incompatible with that of electronic circuit. Okay, incompatible with that of electronic circuitry. That means it will respond, it is in the form of electrical after receiving some stimulus like quantity, property, or it may be condition. Right now, again depending upon that, another one definition of sensor is that sensor, it is nothing but it is a one type of translator. Right now, it is nothing but translator. It will translate a non-electric value into an electric value. Okay, see, we are saying the stimulus, stimulus is nothing but whether it is a quantity, whether it is a property, whether it may be a condition. So this, either it is in the electrical form, whether it is in electrical form, no, like it is nothing but a non-electrical form, so that it will convert output obtained from that stimulus is nothing but it is in the electrical form. So that again another one definition is that generally it is a non-electric value or it is a non-electric energy, it can be converted into an electrical energy. Right, so it is nothing but it is the translator. Generally it will sense the physical property of the material, it will sense the physical condition of that material, it will sense the quantity of that material. That means these all are stimulus, it is in the form of non-electric signal or it may be non-electric energy that can be sensed. That means that signal it can be received and it is converted into an electric value, so that it is like as a translator. So this some I'm telling different definition, that means it is useful for MCQ purpose. Right now, see, again we are telling that the output of the sensor it is in the form of electrical, output of the sensor it is in the form of electrical. That means how much electrical parameter it you should get. कोणत्या इलेक्ट्रिकल फॉर्म मध्ये असतात, किती पॅरामीटर असतात इलेक्ट्रिकल आउटपुट पॅरामीटर? That means whether it will be obtained in the form of voltage, it will be obtained in the form of current, or it may be obtained in the form of charge, like that. Okay, so again it is depends upon, suppose voltage it can be obtained, how much the amplitude of that voltage, right? No, then how much the frequency of that of output obtained, right? So that means electrical form we can call it as a electrical form. Electrical form is nothing but the output it should be obtained either in the form of voltage, either in the form of current or charge, or it is in the form of power, right? No, so that means generally the output of the sensor it is in the form of electrical, like voltage, current, charge, or it may be power. So suppose voltage it should be low, and if you are giving one reference value, suppose sensor sense any one of the stimulus, and if we give one predetermined value, or we can call it as a reference value, एखादी reference value आपण काय केली सेन्सर मध्ये सेट केली, somewhat the voltage obtained up to 5 volt, sensor does not give response, like that. If the voltage obtained by that sensor above 10 volt, then the controlling circuit will do work like that. So sensor, it will give some response. The sensor output signal may be in the form of voltage, in the form of current or charge, and described in terms of amplitude, frequency, phase, or digital code. Right now, or digital code. So these types of output, it can be obtained by sensor. It is in the form of electrical, right? And input form of the sensor, it is in the form input form non-electrical. So non-electrical, it is nothing but it is physical parameter. So physical parameter, it is nothing but either quantity, property, condition, like that, right? And that receives, so this property, condition, and that means a quantity, it is called as stimulus. We can say here stimulus. It will receive the stimulus and gives a response, right? So output, it is in the form of voltage. See, therefore, a sensor has input properties of any kind and electrical output property. So from this above overall discussion, we made one conclusion is that therefore a sensor has input properties of any kind. Okay, any kind. That means sensor has an input property in the form of physical parameter like temperature, pressure, and humidity. Sensor has a input property of like a quantity. Sensor has a input property like as a condition. So condition in the sense of momentum, movement, condition in the sense of velocity, condition in the sense of displacement, right? No, so one object, it is displaced from other object, so it is nothing but one type of momentum or displacement. Okay, so it is one condition. So it is nothing but the sensor, it is having an any kind of input property. So any kind of input property is nothing but any kind of input non-electric property, right? Any kind of input non-electric property, and the output, it should be an electrical property. So electrical property, it is nothing but either a voltage, current, it may be a signal, may be in the form of voltage, current, again charge, or it may be power. So like that. So about this, from this above discussion, we made one conclusion: a sensor has an input property of any kind and output property, it is in the form of electrical. Output property का ऐसे electrical form में ऐसे, right? Now see, again the sensor. All of you understood the sensor concept? Okay. Now see, another one device is there. That means it is called as a transducer. Okay. So there is a difference between the transducer, or the term transducer and sensor are different from each other. Transducer and the sensor are the difference from each other. That means we will see the difference. See, this is nothing but this is one complex type of sensor. This is nothing but overall, it is nothing but it is one complex type of sensor. It is one type of sensor, or it is one sensor. So it will include transducer 1, transducer 2, and here it is direct sensor. See, here it is stimulus. What is stimulus? Any kind of non-electric property, right? So it is nothing but it will be sensed by the sensor. Non-electric property, it will be sensed by the sensor. And here it is, this is nothing but output. Output is in the form of electrical signal. That means this whole, it is one type of sensor. Whole, it is nothing but one type of sensor. This diagram shows that it is the complex sensor. Complex sensor. So this is the complex sensor. It will include two or more than two transducer. So transducer, it is nothing but it is a device. It will become along with that of sensor. What I am telling? See, transducer, or we can call a transducer. It is a part of complex sensor. Getting? Transducer, it is nothing but it is some part of complex sensor. And sensor, it is nothing but it is itself as a sensing element. All of you understood difference between transducer and sensor? So sensor, it is nothing but it is device. It will convert one form of energy into another form. Again, here also it will include a transducer, but again it should be some input is there in the form of physical, and it will respond to that of in the form of electrical, right? But here some transducer it can be included. So that means to make an complex sensor or to make an complex sensor, there are some transducer are required, right? So where the complex sensor is there, so transducer, it is a part of that complex sensor. Transducer, it is a part of that complex sensor, and the sensor, it is nothing but itself as a sensing element. Getting difference between that? So if these two terms, if we like these two terms are similar, but there is some difference between that two terms. Again, you can call transducer. It will sense the stimulus. That means it will sense a physical property, and it will respond to that electric signal. That means again transducer is nothing but sensor. But transducer, it is nothing but it is a part of complex sensor. If we manufacture or if we made the one big sensor or complex sensor, then we required some transducer. So transducer, it is nothing but it is the part of complex sensor, and the sensor, it is nothing but it is itself as a sensing element. Now see, we will see the detailed difference between that two. See, sensor depend according to definition, the sensor, it will converts any type of energy into an electrical. Okay, and a transducer, it is nothing but it will convert one type of energy into another. See the difference. One type of energy into another type of energy. It can be done by using a transducer, and the sensor, it is nothing but it will convert any type of energy into an electrical. So specific word is used here. It will convert any type of energy into an electrical. So here the specific word, it is nothing but electrical, right? No, sensor na sense kela ekad object. If it is direct sensor, it will sense the physical property, it will sense the quantity or the condition, and it can be converted into an electrical. Okay, again transducer, it is nothing but it is conversion device, but it will convert one type of energy into another type of energy, right? So see, suppose the transducer, it will sense the stimulus, it is in the form of signal like a wave, and it can be converted into some another type, not a direct electrical, but it can be converted into another type. Suppose it will be converted into a digital. Suppose it will be converted into an high level signal, right? Now suppose this is a low level signal, it can be converted into an high level signal. Again, it is nothing but conversion, one type of energy into another type of, but it will not convert directly non-electrical to electric. Getting? So transducer, it is nothing but it is the part of complex sense. It is the part of complex sense. Now see, The sensor, it may be a direct sensor or the complex sensor. Sensor, it may be a direct sensor or it may be a complex sensor. And the transducer, it may be a part of complex sensor. Here it is given, the transducer, it may be a part of complex sensor. Again, in case of sensor, sensing element is the sensing element itself. Can you understood the meaning of that sentence? Sensing element itself. म्हणजे सेन्स करण्याचा जो काही एलिमेंट असेल तो सेन्सिंग एलिमेंट इटसेल्फ आहे. हियर the sensing element plus any associated circuitry it is required, right? So we required one sensing element also, and we required some of the extra circuitry or some of the associated circuitry to sense that. It is nothing but one complex type of sensor. Getting difference? And in a case of direct sensor or in case of complex sensor, the sensing element itself, त्या सेन्सर मध्ये जो सेन्सिंग एलिमेंट आहे तोच सेन्सिंग एलिमेंट असेल इन केस ऑफ सेन्सर. and in case of transducer, sensing element it will be required plus some of the extra circuitry or some of the associated circuitry it can be required. Associated circuitry it can be required. So for example is given. Microphone is an example of sensor. Microphone is an example of sensor, and the loudspeaker, it is an example of transducer. So both are sensor. Our microphone, again it will sense the sound wave, okay, and this microphone, it should be give sound wave. And in case of loudspeaker, what will happen? It will also sense the sound wave, but some amplification it can be done. Loudspeaker मध्ये काय होतं? Amplification होतं, so that its amplitude it can be increases. So the loudspeaker, it is nothing but it is one example of transducer type sensor, and microphone, it is the example of sensor. Microphone, it is the example of sensor. Okay, getting all of you getting difference between transducer and sensor? Example. Okay, similar example microphone is there, no? Which one example? Okay, example, suppose, that means if we give the example of natural sensor, one of the what we can tell, it is the ball is there, if it is heated, and if we do the touch to that ball, heated ball or heated material, then our skin, it will be sense that heat, how much heated, our skin, it will be analyzed at that moment, right? No, that means it is the direct conversion, na? Whether there is extra circuitry it can be required? No, extra circuitry, or it will take some time. I am touching with that object, it will take some 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Like that, if you are doing an iron, you are seeing how much temperature of that iron by just simply touching within a fraction of second. Okay, so that means it is the direct conversion. We will get immediate output and direct conversion. Suppose in case of transducer, that means it will require some extra circuitry, right? Suppose same example if it is done by using an automation like a man-made object or man-made type of sensor. Okay, it will sense, suppose the range between that sensor and the heating element, it should be long. Or suppose we are considering a fire alarm system. So if the fire, it can be occur at the place and there is a distance between that sensing element and the fire. To convert again, if these two are in the close, then also some extra circuitry it can be required. Or if they are some far away from these two, then also it will require some of the extra circuit, right? That means it will sense if it is in nearer or it may be it is in the touch, but if that signal it is in the low level, signal obtained by that heat element, or it may be signal obtained from that fire wave, or it may be fire, it is low level. To process on that signal, we required some amplification to convert it into high level. So that means some additional circuitry it can be required. It is nothing but it is some type of transducer or complex sensor. It is called as complex sensor. Getting? Door open close. Yes. Transducer, what we can analyze from this, suppose we are considering direct sensor only. Direct sensor is nothing but it is sense and it will give an output, right? No, but to enhance additional feature, some extra circuitry or some extra equipment it should be required. So like that, this transducer it can be used. Suppose I want to do 2 or 3 function by using one sensor. Again, type of sensor is there, some contact type, some non-contact type, some sensor required some extra excitation circuit. Okay, so some contact type, non-contact type. Suppose non-contact type sensor, contact type sensor, as well as some what we can call someone excitation type of sensor. That means to enable that sensor, first of all we want to give excitation. Okay, so for that purpose we required some additional equipment or additional circuitry, like transducer required, some amplification purpose we required, that means amplifier, some interfacing purpose we required analog to digital conversion, like that. So we will see that part, which equipment it can be used, like amplification, excitation circuit, some sensor required, batteries. We will discuss that part in the unit 3rd. We want to understand each and every part. Okay, so this is related to sensor and transducer. So for example is given microphone, and here it is loudspeaker. Again, for our home automation we are using door opening and closing, or movement sensor is there in our institute. So movement sensor is there, no? So it will sense the movement. Alarm hai to na? That means it is when the movement it will be happen, it will be sensed, and there is an alarm it will be given. So other part it should be a controlling part. It is interface, there should be a program. So it is interface and program it can be done, then it will be gives alarm. So this is related to sensor and transducer. All of you understood this one? Hello? All of you understood? Give me reply. Who is joining now? Okay, so this is related to introduction of the sensor, some definition and what is meant by transducer and sensor we discussed today. The remaining part related to data acquisition system, we will understand all type of sensor by using this figure. Okay, that means you will better understand, and after we will take two example of sensor. That means you will understand better different types of sensor is also there. So this part we will see in the next lecture. So we will conclude this today's lecture and we will stop here. Thank you. Just 1 minute, all of you stay join. I want to take attendance.